Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be about the first day that I arrived at my residential treatment center where I spent the most time in my treatment process. So I'm basically picking up where I left off on my last video. If you haven't seen that video yet, go check it out. It is all about the events leading up to me arriving at the treatment center. Let's get started. So as I said in my last video, I arrived at this treatment center on January 12th, 2014. It was a Sunday, and I think I arrived late morning, early afternoon, around 11 or 12. I believe they were cooking lunch when I arrived. While the transporter was driving me to the treatment center, I was actually allowed to have a phone call with my parents. I don't remember the phone call too well, but I do remember my parents saying that this was my last chance, and if I didn't graduate this program, they wouldn't be taking me back in. I would have to figure out life on my own. So it was a pretty strong ultimatum they gave me. I probably would have done the same if I was in their position. They had exhausted pretty much every effort they could think of. And I just said, okay. I figured I'd probably get kicked out of this program too, and I'd cross that bridge when I got to it. And that was a really hard phone call for me, but I think it was an even harder phone call for them. So when I arrived, we actually originally went to the wrong house because there were multiple houses in this treatment center. Instead of being in like a large lockdown facility type building, we were in actual houses that you wouldn't be able to tell from the outside that they were a treatment center. So we went to one of the houses that was actually like the registered address, and we were kind of like looking in the windows, knocking on the doors, and no one was home. And I was pissed off. I was like, of course they'd leave me and not be here when I arrive. But we called someone and they said, oh, you're at the wrong house. Come across the street. We're in this other house. And they explained it. So we arrived and they were all there waiting for me. So in this program, there were 4 houses total. 2 of them were pretty much the same. They were just in 2 different locations because there were too many students. So those were the first 2 houses. The third one was a transition program. So for people in the first 2 houses who were getting to the later stages and they were getting ready to graduate, they moved over to the transition house, which was a little bit more lenient in their rules. And the 4th house was the young adult house for students 18 and up. Now this program only went to age 20, and once you turned 21 you had to leave the program. I don't believe they ever actually had anyone get that old in the program, but the young adult house at that time was not super populated. It was mostly students who aged out of the other houses, turned 18 and moved to the young adult house. I believe I was one of the first students to ever come in actually already having turned 18, so I went straight to the young adult house. And there were 4 other girls living there at the time, only 4, whereas the other houses had about 17 each. So they had a pretty special thing going on. They were all really close with each other, and they were all pretty far in their treatment program. To make it super simple, there were 4 stages of the program. One of the girls was on stage 2, one of the girls was on stage 3, and the other 2 girls were on their last stage and getting ready to graduate in about a month or 2. So I arrived on a Sunday, which in this program was usually just a lazy day. They would go to the gym, they'd clean the house, they'd have just some rest time, they'd have some studying time, but nothing too interesting happened. So when you arrive at this program, you're assigned a mentor of one of the girls who is a little bit further into the program. And I was assigned my mentor, and she kind of sat down with me with one of the staff members and explained all the rules, very, very basic, how to put in request forms and kind of what chores are, and the point card. I'm not going to go into too much information about the point card. That can probably be another video in itself, but the very basics of it is in this program, you were given a point card every day. It was a little half sheet of paper, and you got positive points for positive behavior, negative points for negative behavior, and at the end of the day, if you reached a certain amount of points, then you got privileges for the next day, and that's such as being able to listen to music, watch TV, have dessert, stuff like that. And if you didn't make those points, if you were below what your threshold needed to be, then you lost those privileges for a day and you got to start over for the next day. Now the rules for that go way more into depth. It was way more complicated. It made a lot of sense once you were there, but that is just the very basics of the point system. So in this house, there were 3 bedrooms. There was one on the main floor, and it had 2 bunk beds, fit 4 girls, and that was kind of the master bedroom of the house. And then in the basement, there were 2 more bedrooms, and those each had 2 beds in them. So the house could sleep 8 girls, and there were only 4 at that time. And I was given a bed in the master bedroom, and there was only one other girl in there. And she was about to graduate in a month, and I'm pretty sure she was not so happy with me. If I was in her position, I wouldn't be happy either. I did not make a very good first impression. Thankfully, by the time she graduated, a few weeks later, we were in good standing and we were pretty good friends. We got along. We liked to sing musical theater songs together. But yeah, that first day I felt a lot of tension with the other girls in the house. Looking back, I don't really blame them, but it didn't make things better for my attitude, and my attitude was really, really bad. I do remember sitting on the floor of the bedroom and them bringing me dinner. They brought me like a bowl of soup that they had made, which normally would never happen. Like, if you refuse to eat dinner, you refuse to eat dinner, but I think it was my first day and they wanted to make sure I ate, so they brought me the food. And I just sat on the floor sulking, and I honestly don't remember that much. I did reach out to one of the former staff members who I still keep in touch with, and she no longer works there anymore. So if you're watching this, you know who you are. And I actually asked her if she remembered my first day, and we were trying to remember. It turns out she didn't actually work until my third day at the center. So I arrived on Sunday, and she didn't actually work until Tuesday. So we were going through all these stories about what she remembers and what I remember, and reminding each other of different good and bad times. Unfortunately, I don't remember too much about my first day, and it was a little bit of a different scenario because I did arrive on a Sunday instead of a weekday or even a Saturday where there would be more events going on. One thing I remember a lot is the bathroom. Now, at this treatment center, until you got permission from your therapist to not have to do this, if you were in the bathroom, you had to be singing or counting, saying the alphabet, and this was if you were using the toilet or if you were in the shower. If it was anything where you'd normally have to have the door closed, you had to be making noise. Now, in the younger houses, a staff member would actually have their foot in the, like, cracked open the door and have their foot in the door. At this house, thankfully, you got to have the door closed, but you did have to be making noise. It was not a treatment center for girls with eating disorders. However, there were girls there who did have histories of eating disorders. I am very thankful I've never suffered with an eating disorder, so this rule just really pissed me off. And I'm gonna tell you something, when you're switching from like normal food to just binging out to going to my Hawaii wilderness therapy where you're eating all these plants that you've never eaten before, and then you come and you're eating airport food on the way. Girl, my GI system was screwed up. I did not want to be singing in the bathroom. That's just how it was. So I remember that quite well. Also, I had no clothes. So most people going to this program already had a fair warning that they'd be going, so they or their parents were able to pack a box of all their belongings, clothes, and toiletries, and send it to the program. However, if you watched my last video, you know that it was very last minute me being sent here. So when I arrived, all I had were the clothes on my back. My parents did very, very quickly pack up a box of all my belongings and send it, but it did take like 3 or 4 days to get to Utah. So the night that I got there, we went to Walmart because it was a Sunday night in Utah. Walmart was the only place open, and I bought a couple of outfits. I bought a couple shirts, pants, some socks, underwear, and I think a sports bra, and that would get me through the next couple of days. I remember when my giant box of clothes and belongings arrived, and I cried. I was just so happy to see all of it. So at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night, night staff comes and checks on all the sleeping students once an hour, I think. I don't know. I was asleep. I don't really know how often they checked on us, but it was just one night staff in the house every night. And so around 10:30 or 11, the day staff left, the night staff came, and we all went to bed. And I thought, finally, I can use the restroom in peace. So I went to the bathroom, and guess who started knocking on the door? The night staff. And I got angry again. I hope you enjoyed hearing about my first day at the residential treatment center. I have a bunch of more video ideas coming up. So I want to do a video on my first few weeks in the treatment center after this first day and trying to adjust and just how my behavior and my attitude were changing during those times. It's a difficult transition for anyone who were to go to a place like that. So I'd like to tell my story of how I transitioned and how I finally came to realize, oh my god, I can't speak. I suck at talking. Hopefully I'll be able to reach out to some people who can maybe help spark my memory on some of those activities, because some of them I've just forgotten about. There was a lot going on then. And I hope this channel is providing entertainment, education, awareness. So again, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!